Morning, guys. So we are going to start looking at probability. So the first thing you need to do when we're looking at probability is understand what kind of language we need to use. So probability always goes between impossible, that it's never ever going to happen, to certain, where it definitely will happen. There's no other chance for it. It definitely will happen. Okay. So and then you have variations in between. So when I'm looking at this top half, there's a whole bunch of words that you might see where they're talking about the chances of something happening. So when I'm looking at all of these, some of them are very, very obvious, some not so obvious. Okay. So we'll just go through them in order. What I would probably say is all of you need to draw this line that goes between impossible and certain. And then we can just fill out where we need to. Because I don't have a lot of space on here, and if I write too tiny, you guys won't see it. I'm just going to write A, B, C, D, all that other lovely stuff with the pen, because I have access to this. If you're able to print it out and fill it out on there, that's perfectly fine. If you're not, when you do this diagram, please don't put A, B, C, D. Please make sure you put all those words down, okay? So, starting with A, very unlikely. So, am I expecting very unlikely to be closer to impossible or to be closer to certain? I'm probably just going to stick it here. There's hardly any chance of it happening. That very unlikely would be me, I don't know, buying a lottery ticket and expecting to win. It's very unlikely. So I think it's like 1 in 14 million or something like that. So yeah, very unlikely. Okay, so B, no chance. Okay, no chance of it happening. Is it going to snow tomorrow? No. If anyone actually looks at the weather forecast, like I do quite often, no, it's meant to be 37 degrees, so B, it's just not happening, it's impossible. Okay, so very likely, it's on the opposite side of very unlikely. So very likely would be me saying, I don't know, am I going to feel hot tomorrow? Very likely, unless I go and put my AC on. Okay, so very likely, right there. Okay, D, almost impossible. So it's not impossible, but it is more impossible than the very unlikely. So I'm going to put D right there. Okay, E. Okay, even chance. Some of you may have heard of this, some of you may have not. So even chance is, so think of an even, something that has possibility of even chance. So a dice has 6 faces. That's even, right? A coin has 2 faces. That's also very even. So if I was talking about rolling a dice and I say, what's the chances of me getting an odd? That would be 3 out of 6. What is the chance of me getting an even? That's 3 out of 6, which is half, okay? And then you have the same when you have a coin. If I flip a coin and then it's heads, then I'll be like, oh, I've got half a chance of getting heads, half a chance of not getting heads, like the tails. Okay, so even chance would be right smack bang in the middle, okay? Because it means that I've got an even chance of going either way, so it's right in the middle. Okay, F, doubtful. Okay, I'm kind of going to say doubtful, unlikely. Doubtful, I might put doubtful here, or I might have put it with the A, okay? So, it's doubtful. G, probable. Okay, other side, probably happen. H, improbable. Just gonna pop that here. Just recognize that some of these could, depending on how you interpret the word, some of these could go on top of each other. So doubtful and improbable, you could probably say are on the same kind of level, depending on how you see it. Okay, and then you have I, which is 50-50 chance, which, because it needs to be right in the middle, I'm going to make sure they're definitely in the middle. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So this would be a probability scale. Okay, the next thing you might notice, because you do have just over here with I, it does say 50-50 chance. Where do you think that comes from? So what's 50 plus 50? Well, it's 100%, right? So we kind of say 50-50 because that's not very clear. If I divide 100, what do I have? 50, 50, okay? So the chances of something happening starts from 0 and it goes all the way to 100, right? Because if anyone's ever said to you, I want 100%, okay? And then if anyone ever says, I want 110% from you, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. You can only give 100%, okay? So it's 100%. Or if you're speaking to someone that's very panicky, they might say, well, you can't really give 100% because your body is taking some of your energy and everything else as well. And thus, you can never truly give 100% because your body is having to look after itself. But it's just me being picky. But 100% is the highest you have. 0% is the smallest, which means that in the middle would be 50%. Okay? So when we have probability, the scale could also be numerical. So this is what starts happening. So first of all, you can start talking about words, but then you can start popping it into numbers as well. So you'd say, oh, the chances of me getting a tail when I flip a coin, 50%. The chances of me rolling an even when I roll a fair die, 50%. Okay? So when you are kind of talking about this, just remember that if someone is saying describe a probability, describe would be a word, which are these words here. But if they're saying calculate a probability, then they want a number, okay? Because these are numbers. So you can actually start calculating with numbers and it'll go between 0 and 100%, and you can actually start tallying up numbers on them. So one example of a number would be, well, what's the odds of me rolling a 2? So rolling a 2 on a 6-sided dice. Well, how many 2s are there on a 6-sided dice? 1. How many faces in total? 1/6. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But that's just to let you know, because a lot of people get confused between describe and calculate, and sometimes it says calculate and people start using the words and they don't get the credit for it. And sometimes it might say describe and then people spend a lot of time calculating it. And then you're a bit like, it just told you to describe. Just make sure you describe it. And then the person can understand what you're talking about. Because some people only want you to describe because they might not understand the maths behind it, or they just want to see whether you understand how likely it is for something to happen. So if I was talking about the weather, I don't want you to calculate the probability of whether it's going to be sunny or not outside. You'll probably just say, well, it's certain to be sunny because I checked my weather forecast, right? Or if someone said, oh, the sun is going to set at about 7:30, I'm not going to say, well, please calculate it to 100% because that would be a little bit silly. You'll probably say, well, very probable, okay? So just make sure you know the difference. So this part down here is just checking whether you understand where each of these might go. So if you want to pause and see if you can place them anywhere. And then if you pause and then when you come back, we'll go through them. Okay, so hopefully you guys paused. So let's go through them. So you have all those different options. I am literally just going to pop letters and maybe say what they are. So it says, it will snow in London in June, okay? I have never heard of that happening. I'm going to say impossible. It's the middle of the summer. It's not going to snow in London. They specify that it's in London because obviously there are places in the globe where it does snow. Okay, so B, you will blink today. That is certain. If you do not blink during the day, there is something wrong and you need to ensure that your eyes get looked at because it's very important for you to blink. I'm not going to go into the science right now. Okay, the next person to walk into the room will be male. Okay, this one depends on what kind of life you lead. So say if you live in a household, where you're all guys, that would be certain. If you live in a household where you're all female, it's never going to happen. Okay, so, well, I say it's never going to happen. Well, right now, it wouldn't happen because we have, like, social distancing. But otherwise, if someone came around your house, obviously you might have a guest that is, like, male and walks into the room, and you're like, hello, how are you doing? Anyway, getting back to the topic. This one will vary depending on how many male people are in your family or your close family within your own household. Okay, so me, I live by myself. The next person to walk into the room will be male. Well, that's kind of impossible because I live by myself. Okay, so this is just for me. For you guys, it's obviously going to be different, so don't rely on this answer. This answer can vary, okay? For D, your teacher will come to school tomorrow. Well, okay, that's a fun question, isn't it? Well, I'll be online on a virtual school, but yeah, it really just depends on one, whether it's the last day of the week, two, whether you're talking about a building or online virtual school. Okay, so this will vary as well. I'm just going to say vary because I'm not going into the school building because I don't walk that far. Okay, E, the person next to you has 3 brothers. I have no idea. This is going to vary depending on how many brothers you have in your household. For all I know, you might have 3 brothers, and if your sister sat next to you and she has 3 brothers, then yeah, obviously that's true. Okay, F, you add a number to 8 and get 5. Okay, it's very unlikely, I would say, because the only number you can add to 8 to get 5 is -3. So it can happen. There's one scenario where it will happen, but kind of unlikely. Okay, so G, the pregnant lady on the bus has a girl. Okay, so if you don't know who the pregnant lady is, then most people would just say it's a 50-50 chance if you don't know. But obviously, if the pregnant lady on the bus is someone you know and you know what gender the baby is, then this will vary, but 50-50 chance for most people. Okay, H, you will see a pigeon today. I've not seen any pigeons in Jordan, so I'm just gonna say impossible because I don't think they migrate here. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. I will be kind of intrigued, but I've never personally seen any, and I haven't heard any stories about migration here for the pigeons. I think they live in cooler climates. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a couple of sheets on the classroom. So I'm going to have the sheet that talks about the language. But I'm also going to have this sheet over here just to kind of introduce you to probabilities and perhaps starting to calculate. So if you look at section B, which is a little bit of a extension that allows you to know where you can go. Okay, so I'll have both sheets on there. Have fun. Probability is very much a common sense thing, and I know a lot of you guys can do it if you just kind of think a little bit about it. Okay? Take care. Any questions, as per usual, let me know. Anything, don't mind. If you want to query any of this, that's fine. If you find out about the pigeons, let me know. I am kind of intrigued. I'm always willing to learn new things. Okay, but otherwise, I would say get some vitamin D. I know it's quite hot, so obviously make sure you wear SPF. And have a good day. Toodles.